and welcome to another episode of the Silicon Dreams 1550 AM. I'm Sharlaine from HbarSuite's, your host for today. Now, you must have heard of HbarSuite, the pioneering force behind the smart node network, switching up DeFi on the Hedera Network. Their innovative technology, Smart Node, is empowering developers to create groundbreaking decentralized finance applications with unparalleled agility and power. And guess what? We're thrilled to introduce two guests, very, very special actually, from HbarSuite. Topachi, the CEO and founder at HbarSuite, and Tomachi Anura, CTO and co-founder at HbarSuite. Welcome, guys. It's amazing to have you on our podcast today. How are you guys doing?
Thanks a lot for having us.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. It's great having you guys. And I know you guys are going to bring a wealth of expertise and insights into today's episode. So listeners, you have got to watch out. On that note, I want to start with, the both of you just giving us a little introduction. You can choose who goes first. So a little introduction about yourself and your journey into Web3 and, what you are working on today.
I go by Topachi, and I've been into the cryptocurrency space for about almost 10 years now, and it's been a great journey. And it's awesome to be into the Hedera ecosystem because me and the co-founder Tomachi, we've known each other for about 10 years as well, and it's been an incredible journey because we are brothers-in-law, and we're really close friends as well. We're almost like blood family, so to speak. And once we realized what was going on with the Hedera hash graph with Dr. Lemon Bird's invention, we really were ecstatic about what it was being built back in 2016, 2017, so it was amazing where we both had this energy to build something so exciting, in a sense that we both were very much intrigued into this new technology that would allow us to do something as great as HbarSuite to this day. And it's been really awesome so far.
That's awesome. So yeah, Tomachi, we would love to have you go next.
I would just go step by step with answers. All I can say right now is that I'm very excited because we are getting close to our version 2 and the second roadmap, and there's lots of new features that are about to be released. And we've been working nonstop. We're kind of feeling overwhelmed sometimes because the team is small and we really have a lot to do, but I'm super happy about how things are going and how the community is responding to all our inputs and features, and it's growing also organically, which makes me very, very happy about it. It has been a long journey, but there's still a lot of things to still be developed and delivered. So I'm very excited about this 2024 and all the things that will be slowly rolling out.
Absolutely. I think we are as excited as you guys are. And with that, I think we're going to get a little deeper into, what you guys are working on and what's happening and what's planned in the road ahead for 2024. So with that, can you guys tell us a little bit about, HbarSuite, give us an overview and, the DeFi services built on the Hedera network?
So, HbarSuite is a suite of DeFi services which has been built on top of the Hedera network. And so we are what they say, what you call a layer 1.5, which is we're almost layer 2, but not quite. And this brings the concept of the DAppNet, which is application networks. And this is something that Dr. Lemon Bird was always speaking about back in his Harvard lecture days. And it's really awesome concept because this allows you to create many different decentralized application networks in fact decentralized manner. And the really cool part is that you don't actually need smart contracts for it. And in order to achieve this, we created what we call the smart node technology, and this aims to showcase the future of the appnets that could potentially replace smart contracts in the future, so to speak. But when we talk about particular differences distinguishes smart nodes from traditional smart contracts or even Hedera smart contracts, there are many differences that can be talked about in regards regarding examples. For example, that when a user is executing a smart contract transaction, at least everything that I'm going to say is related to the Hedera ecosystem, generically speaking, to be more precise. So when a user is executing, for example, a smart contract transaction, they're not able to see what they're about to execute when they sign the transaction, when they agree to perform, So it could be literally anything at that point. While with the smart nodes, the really cool thing is that you're able to see in advance before you sign exactly what is going to happen. And there is no allowance neither whatsoever, no weird surprises that could be going in the background. And smart contract dApps, another thing that's important to say is that they have more maintenance limits and higher cost of maintenance because contracts themselves usually require developers who specifically work on a certain particular programming language, such as Solidity, for example, or Rust in the case. And to find Solidity developers is much harder and much more expensive. And then you have to have front-end developers, back-end developers that run a server so that smart contracts can probably interact with in a desired manner. With the smart nodes instead, you just have maintenance is cheaper and more straightforward as the code is written in JavaScript, specifically TypeScript. But JavaScript, generally speaking, is one of the most popular and widely used programming languages in the world. So it's like it comprises of 95% of developers know JavaScript and know more or less how to use it, And most web developers, by using this, therefore, the onboarding level for developers in the world of Web3 with the smart nodes would be much easier and accessible compared to the smart contract developer counterparts. Another thing that we can talk about is the fact that smart contracts have a data structure and memory limit that needs to be taken into consideration. For example, on Hedera, the memory limit that smart contracts have is about 10 megabytes. Meanwhile, with the smart nodes, we have extreme flexibility in terms of data structure and memory availability, basically. Smart contracts on Hedera run about 200, 300 transactions per second as well, while our nodes can basically natively run on Hedera speeds, which right now they're throttled down to 10,000 transactions per second, but can potentially be more in the future. And while another important thing to say is that while smart contracts cannot interact with outside the world, outside of their blockchain where they come from, the smart nodes are able to interact on-chain, off-chain, cross-chain, a cross-chain application network connected to the internet. And one of the other things that we can say is that smart nodes basically solve the Oracle problem that to this day smart contracts have.
Right. And yeah, so, now that we've understood what distinguishes smart nodes from traditional smart contracts and, especially how they contribute to the decentralization and efficiency, I want to ask you about, how do smart nodes leverage cloud computing environments like Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services to decentralize their operations?
Yeah, well, essentially, smart nodes can easily be run on those type of environments, like you mentioned, Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services, but basically can be deployed into any cloud environment as well as potentially a local environment. And generally speaking, smart nodes don't really need that much of a computing power. So they run on very low power. The thing is that at the initial stages, especially when the V2 will be coming out and we'll have node validators, we advocate the use of cloud computing environments because we plan on having a simple one-click deploy solution where users will be easily able to deploy their own smart nodes and they don't have to think about keeping their computer connected to the internet and on all the time, and because we will basically have a proof of reputation system where, for example, if you turn your computer off or your node is off or the internet goes down, then you may not have as well of a reputation as something like that is deployed into the cloud computing environment, which is basically has almost 100% uptime most of the times.
Could you kind of elaborate on the use cases for smart nodes, in building custom DeFi protocols and enterprise private networks. And Tomachi, you can also give in your inputs.
Sure, thanks. I will let Topachi go for it, and if needed, I will just jump in.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, man.
The smart nodes can be highly customizable for basically any user needs, and can also as well be used in a private and encrypted network for institutions that may require the nodes to be this way. And some use cases example that come to my mind is from our partnership, one of the latest announced partnership with the company Shecom MSG Berhad, which is basically a company engaged in outsourcing and also providing technology services. And we recently made a partnership with them so that they will be able to leverage the smart node technology as a private network to be utilized as a core network for a decentralized identity application for the Education Malaysia Global Services, which is like a Malaysian government branch in this case. So this is being used as a private network for a decentralized identity. Another use case that comes to my mind is our also partnership with Bankwap, which is a crypto bank as well as broker and a real estate vendor. And they are currently leverage our smart nodes to provide their customer all the Web2 and Web3 functionality, which are merged into an awesome hybrid model. And it's a really interesting model because the way that we're building with Banqua, for example, let's take the marketplace or the crypto exchanges part or the staking. So it's basically centralized identity. And at the same time, though, like although it is custodial, where user has to deposit funds in accounts that are under Banqua, so to speak, control, at the same time, the smart nodes are all decentralized. So you have this hybrid centralized and decentralized model, which it's a really particular and interested because enhances the trust into decentralization in deploying something that is made by an actual financial institution that still needs to have a certain level of control in order to be able to perform certain finance operation within a regulated environment in this case.
All right. Yeah. And Tomachi, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, the main differences between like public network and private network is that the public one will rely on the smart nodes which are run by community members basically. So if you are a developer and you want to build like your own launchpad or you want to build your own marketplace or anything else, you would be able to basically choose between relying on the public network or building your own private one. So when you go public, it's also very interesting because you are basically telling everyone that you own 1/3 of the keys, and the other one is held by the smart node HSuite network, and the other third is owned by the community network, which basically means that as a project owner, you don't have anymore the power to just rug pull your token or just run out with the money because you need to have the consensus of the smart nodes, which will behave under a validator protocol approach. So basically, when you deploy a smart app, that's how we call them, and you rely on a public network, then each node of the network will recall the validator, which is going to be stored into Hedera consensus service in a JSON format. So it's like a set of rules. So if you, let's say, if you create a launchpad, right, and everybody's going to buy your token, and the set of rules says that only a DAO approval can unlock funds from this wallet, then you truly have no way, even though you are the project owner yourself, to just take these HBARs and run away with them.
Right.
You must stick to the protocol that you have been deploying. And each changes go through Hedera consensus service, so everyone would easily know if you are willing to change those rules or not. And there are also different security levels, like also writing into Hedera consensus service to change the validation rules. It's under a multi-sig approach because Hedera consensus service itself, it's a topic system where you can submit message, and the submission keys, it's also a multi-sig. So basically, as a owner, you can't change the validation rules as you wish when you wish because it has to be approved by the entire network, which is bringing like a high level of complexity, but at the same time, it's a high level of security as well. Because instead, like when you go with contracts, for example, you can deploy a proxied contract, right? So you have your original smart contract, and then you have the proxy one.
Yes.
Everyone interacts with the proxy one, and you can also validate the contract, which is the proxy contract. But if you change the proxy address, no one will be notified about that. And as a project owner, having the contract keys, you have all the power to change the proxy address contract whenever you want. So this is highly unsecure because you don't only have to know solidity, you don't only have to be careful if the contract is pointing to the same proxied address, but you also have to check constantly because there is no triggering, like no consensus message, no notifications whatsoever. And this is truly important, and this will come in our V2. We are truly working hard to make this happen because to us, it's truly important to prioritize decentralization and security instead of doxing out, you know. We have seen many projects with doxed people with name and surnames, and 90% of them have been either failing, either ragging pool and run away with the money. So being doxed or using smart contracts is not a measure of security at all. And this is what we want to prove. We want to showcase that the good technology and the good methodology can basically increase the security and the trust level. And this is what blockchain it's all about, in my opinion. Is like if you truly want to get permissionless and trustless, you cannot keep relying on identities of people. You know, you should just rely on a decentralized approach, which is truly trustless in the meaning that you don't have any third party which is asking you to trust blindly what's going on behind the scenes. And this also reflects in the way we approach offline transactions, because what we say is that even though you are not a developer, even though you don't know how to read code, you don't have to trust us, because every single transaction you sign using smart node technology is exactly like what you see is what you get. So before you sign, you know exactly what you are going to spend and what you are going to receive in the same exactly atomic transaction. And there's no allowance whatsoever requested by our smart nodes. So you don't give us the permission to use your money, and you don't sign blindly some smart contract code that you don't even know what's going to happen. You know,
That is
it's all clear, and it's all show in your crypto wallet in the exact moment you're about to sign the same transaction.
I think trust is definitely a big problem right now, because where I come from in India, when we talk about Web3 in general, like we've spoken about this in a couple of episodes, where not everybody looks at Web3 with the best of, optimism, I would say. There is always that thing, oh, it's related to scams, and just because of everything that's happening in the market. So I think this definitely changes the game, and I'm really excited to see where this is headed. And something that also that I want to talk about is, as the world's first carbon negative DAO utilizing smart node technology, how does HbarSuite contribute to sustainability efforts?
So we basically contributed with the fact that by showing that our technology, even compared to smart contracts on Hedera, is much cheaper and requires much less gas. And as a matter of fact, our smart nodes are about 80 times cheaper than smart contracts on Hedera are, if that tells you anything. So, and by building on top of Hedera, like, we're totally committed to make sure that we are as little as possible, or even, as we say, carbon negative impact into the regards of sustainability to go forward in the future, because it's really well needed to take this step ahead.
That is a great insight. And could you also explain how smart nodes enable infinite scalability and address the limitations and risks associated with smart contracts?
So when we speak regarding the difference into finance application, we have to look different aspects for it. The way that the smart nodes are intended to work, especially for the security aspect of things, is that thanks to Hedera, we are building a core security mechanism that works basically in layman terms with multi-sig of a multi-sig mechanism. So we're envisioning a place where if you have a smart application built by a developer, for example, you have a core mechanism of security where to perform any operation, you have a multi-sig of a multi-sig where from one side, for example, you have the smart nodes, right? So if you have threshold 2 out of 2, from one side you have the smart nodes, and from the other side you have, for example, the developer or the user. And if you set up 2 threshold, even if the smart node, let's say, gets hacked or they're bad actors, even if the smart nodes would be multi-sig themselves, they would have a whole multi-signature or multi-signature mechanism. Or even if from the other side, the developer or the user is a bad actor, you must have both signatures to perform any action. So the chances of both of the groups to be compromised are basically lowered to a minimum in this case. Like, so as far as we know, there is not a project in the crypto space that works in this manner that we're planning to do in regards of architecture for a security level in this case. So you always need the approval of both the user, and the provider in this case, and that's really big because it's a backfeeding mechanism in this case. And like Tomachi mentioned before, there is through the Hedera consensus service as well, by using Hedera as a layer 0, you have this validation method, which is public, easily readable, and can be verified by anybody who doesn't even know how to read the code in general. Like JSON is just like, it's very simple to read in this case, and can also be verified in a very, very easy manner in this case.
I'm sure while building, there are obviously challenges that you encounter. So what are some of the challenges that you guys have come across while developing and implementing smart nodes? And how do you overcome them? Or how do you plan to overcome some of the challenges that you think that you foresee?
There could be a lot that we could say here, but I'll keep it short.
Yeah.
Well, primary challenges that we faced was mostly related about learning deeply how Hedera works from tip to toe, like as well as keeping up with the network updates that sometimes would require us to readapt the smart node architecture for certain types of features or functionalities. But I can say like nothing major we had regards of troubles and challenges really. And any challenge or issues that we faced, it just kind of slowed down on development, took us extra time to fix, but also to adapt like the architecture and make it work in the best way possible while interfacing with Hedera as layer 0. But yeah, overall, like our team, we're a small team, but we're really good. We're really resilient, and any challenges that we have to this day, we never experienced something that we could just say, oh, we cannot overcome this. And this is because also like the smart node technology, the way that it's built, it's super flexible, it doesn't really have any particular limits. It's been quite of a journey, I can say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with what you guys are building and with the revolution that it's going to create, I'm pretty sure there will be, bumps, but that, like you said, you have a team that will support you, and you guys with the dynamics of the founder and the co-founder right together. I was just watching, while you said about that. So that's very interesting. And I think I hope the best for the both of you and the whole team. And I come to my last question. The future, looking ahead, what are some of the future plans and developments for HbarSuite, and particularly regarding the expansion of smart node technology and its applications?
I mean, we really look forward to releasing our version 2 of the smart nodes, which we're really working out for it, and it's coming out this year. And this because it will really enable any developer to easily onboard into the world of Web3, and without much of the hassle compared to what it would be when building on other blockchains with smart contracts. And after 2 years of extensive development and showcases that we have put out there, more and more people have been starting to finally realize the power that can be harnessed from the smart node technology. And that shows also with all the enterprise partnership that we recently have acquired, like I mentioned before, with Banqua and Shigom, for example. We can only see exponential growth, like at a faster and faster pace. That's what we've been experiencing. And we have many, many more updates for our community that we have in store. We can just not say yet because we're laying them out and in a timely manner for this whole year of 2024. But I can say that we are incredibly bullish about HbarSuite future, and we've proven ourselves each time that we are made of all substances and not useless hype, not announcement of announcements kind of thing, building hype and then just letting people disappointed. But we come out with only good quality stuff.
That is great. I mean, that is what is definitely required over just building hype. And I know I said this is my last question, but I have just one last thing to ask. So a lot of our listeners here are new to Web3. So I want, one piece of advice from the both of you. What would you advise newcomers, people who are just newly being onboarded to Web3? How would you advise them to, navigate through, or people, especially entrepreneurs who are, building newly on Web3? What is your one advice to them?
Well, I can say on the developer's perspective, mostly is that coming from like web development space, which most developers know how to use JavaScript more or less, like with our technology that will be coming up, we will be making very, very, very easy to develop compared to other counterparts that there will be out there. And yes, it still depends on like the type of background that a person would have and experiences. Those always must be accounted into consideration. And one other thing is that, as regardless of the fact that we'll make it as easy as possible to do certain things, we have learned as a team that we must be united in a way that we cannot do everything by ourselves. Like depending, unless you're working on something, usually developers work in companies, or they have teams. Like one person cannot do it all. As good as you can be, there will be a breaking point where you're gonna have to delegate or ask for help, or ask for advice. It could be in any particular case. So our advice is in this case, like we also set up the HbarSuite Foundation recently, and the HbarSuite Foundation would be also utilized in order for onboarding as many developers as possible to help them and guide them and tutor them into coming to the Web3 space and kind of explain them how more or less everything works, what the community can expect, from a development aspect of things, and what are like the sort of minimum requirements for on content that we would expect from somebody developing on Web3, which usually involves money, people's money. So there are certain standards that need to be followed through that.
That's a great initiative. So listeners, if you're hearing, you know what to do. And yeah, Tomachi, would you like to, share a bit of advice from your side?
Yeah, I would just say be brave, guys, and be creative. Standards are standards just because someone has been believing in those and utilizing them and pushing them forwards. So we are living in a wonderful times where we can truly be creative. And if you comes to Hedera as a developer, you might see the chances to develop a smart way of doing things, which is not always implying smart contracts. I'm not saying don't use smart contracts. I'm not either say use smart nodes. That's truly up to you, but at least investigate the technology you're about to use, because after all, Hedera is not even a blockchain. It is a hash graph, which is a completely different way of approaching things. And you don't have to use blocks for that. and you can be very creative, and all the tools that Hedera itself offers, apart from HSuite tools, they are truly interesting as a layer 0. So be brave and be creative. That's all I can say.
That's one of the best advice I've heard till date. Be brave and be creative, especially given the nature of Web3. And yeah, with that, we come to the end of this amazing episode. I would really love to thank you guys, Topachi, the CEO and founder of HbarSuite, and Tomachi, the
Thank
CTO and co-founder of HbarSuite. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you had a
Thanks a
great.
Thank
lot.
you, Sonia.
Yes. And yeah, so folks, stay tuned for more inspiring conversations as we continue to explore the limitless possibilities of blockchain technology and AI.